Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Today I have the pleasure to have here with me Mrs Esme Palas, who is one of the partners at Michael Kyprianou & Co. LLC. Esme advises local and international clients in relation to property, construction and immigration law matters, as well as commercial law. We are here today to find out answers to the questions of how the rights of UK citizens are affected by Brexit in relation to living and purchasing property in Cyprus. Esme, Brexit is indeed a reality. Can you please tell us how this has affected the rights of UK nationals already living?
UK nationals already living in Cyprus have actually no cause for concern. They can continue to live, work and study in Cyprus and enjoy the same benefits as they did before, provided, however, they secure their necessary residency documents.
Do UK nationals need to update their paperwork if they already have residency documents, Mrs Palas?
UK nationals who have already taken steps and applied for their residency documents and have in place the MEU1, the MEU2 or the MEU3, luckily do not have to take any further steps to actually update those documents. It is not compulsory. Of course, they can if they wish to, and in which case it's actually a pretty ordinary and simple procedure. They present to the immigration the existing documents together with a copy of their passport, and they need to give biometrics. So they can, if they do so, they have the option to do so, but it's not compulsory.
And what about the UK nationals who have been living in Cyprus but have not had a chance to get their residency documents sorted prior to the 31st of December 2020?
Those UK nationals who, for whatever reason, have been living in Cyprus but have not been able to update their residency documents, they do not need to worry because they continue to have the right to do so. The only thing is that they need to provide documentary evidence that they actually have been living in Cyprus prior to Brexit and that they continue to do so.
What about UK nationals who wish to purchase property in Cyprus post-Brexit? Are they entitled to do so?
Yes, of course. They are entitled to purchase property just like they did before.
And how many properties can they purchase?
UK nationals can now buy 2 properties, just like other non-EU nationals. However, this can be overcome if they wish to purchase more. A company could be set up, a Cyprus company, and the properties could be purchased in the name of that company.
Mrs Palas, please tell us about the property purchase procedure and what prospective purchasers need to know.
Okay, first of all, they would identify their preferred property. They would then be asked to pay a deposit, and I would advise that a deposit is paid subject to searches, and if they wish to do a survey, that this deposit is also paid subject to survey. Once the deposit is paid, the various documents would be released to the purchaser's lawyer, so it's important as well at that point to choose a lawyer who would do due diligence to check that the property is clean from encumbrances, that all the plans and permits and title deeds are all in order. And once the purchasers are given the all clear to proceed by the lawyer, then the contractual terms will start being negotiated. The mode of payment would be set out in the contract. In cases of resale property, the norm is that 20 to 30% is paid on signing, the contract of sale is lodged, and the balance would be paid on completion and transfer of the clean title deeds to the purchasers. In cases of new builds, the parties would agree on a payment structure so that the payments are released according to the progress of the construction.
What are the costs involved in the purchase of property?
Okay, obviously the agreed purchase price, legal fees which should be agreed with the legal representative of the purchaser from the beginning to avoid any surprises. There are transfer fees, which are the equivalent of a transfer tax, let's say, payable to the government. And these transfer fees are only paid in the case of resale properties, and the island. And also, if the purchasers wish to purchase a property in two names, that will decrease the transfer fees even further. So it's beneficial if they decide to buy property to buy it in more than one name to reduce the transfer fees. In addition to transfer fees, there is stamp duty, which is calculated again on the value of the property. It's 0.15% on the first 170,000 euros and 0.20% on any amount above that. There are no agents fees in such cases because the agents fees are always paid by the vendors. In the cases of new builds and not resale, there is VAT payable, and VAT is 19% normally. However, when it's purchasing residential property, under certain circumstances, it is possible for any purchaser to qualify for a reduction in the VAT and pay 5% instead of 19% VAT. And again, it would be the lawyer who would assist them in this procedure of the reduction of VAT.
Excellent. Is there any difference in the process post-Brexit?
The process is exactly the same as it was before. The only thing is that one additional procedural step is added, which is an application to the Council of Ministers, which is done through the purchaser's lawyers. It is very simple, very straightforward, and it's nothing to worry about. It's very easy.
Excellent. Do purchasers of property need to be in Cyprus to purchase property?
Actually, no. It is possible for the purchaser's lawyer to represent them throughout the process by the medium of a power of attorney. And through this power of attorney, the legal representative could take care of the transaction from A to Z for the purchasers.
Great. Do purchasers need to have a bank account in Cyprus in order to be able to purchase property on the island?
Again, this is something that many times concerns purchasers, and the answer is no, it is not necessary. They can use the client's account of the legal representative, an escrow account, in which they would transfer the funds, and the legal representative would make all the payments on their behalf as and when required on the basis of the terms of the contract.
Great. Mrs. Palas, is it possible to get a mortgage?
Well, it's slightly more difficult at the moment, post-Brexit, but the Cyprus banks are looking into it, and I believe very soon there will be a solution that will enable purchasers to obtain mortgages just as they did until very recently.
Moving on, if both parties in the transaction, the vendors and the purchasers, are UK nationals, is it possible for the purchase price to be agreed in sterling and to be paid in the UK?
Yes, this is what is very commonly called a sterling transaction, whereby the parties would agree to the price in sterling, and the funds would be paid from the purchaser's UK bank account into the vendor's UK bank account. Now, this is done, and the reason a lot of clients choose to do so and follow this route is to avoid fluctuations in the currency and additional currency exchange costs. So they can do it. However, it is very important again that the purchaser's legal representative takes sufficient steps to safeguard the purchaser's interest, even more so in such a transaction.
Great. If you could give one piece of advice to prospective purchasers considering purchasing property in Cyprus, what would that be?
My advice would be to obtain objective legal representation in order to avoid any potential pitfalls that could appear when purchasing property in Cyprus. It's extremely important that the legal representative does thorough due diligence on a property to make sure that they check the permits, the plans, make sure that the title deed is clear, they do a search to make sure that there are no mortgages or encumbrances on the land. So legal representation by a reputable law firm is highly advisable.
Excellent. How long does the purchase process take on average from the time the offer is accepted to completion?
Well, from the time of signing the contract until completion, it takes between 30 to 45 days. But from the time the offer is accepted until signing of the contracts, the time there will depend on how quickly the purchasers can transfer the funds to Cyprus, how quickly they can clear, and of course how long the due diligence will take on the property being purchased, as due diligence is a very important and necessary step when purchasing property in Cyprus.
Excellent. Now, if you wish to purchase property as a holiday home, would you need a visa to come to Cyprus?
No. Those purchasers who wish to come and view properties can come to Cyprus just like any other tourist for up to 90 days and remain in the country for a 90-day out of a 180-day period.
Great. If they buy property in Cyprus, does that entitle UK nationals to reside in Cyprus?
Well, actually, purchase of property alone and per se does not give the entitlement to a non-EU national or UK national to actually reside in Cyprus. They would have to apply for some kind of permit.
So, what routes are available to UK nationals who purchase properties and wish to reside in Cyprus permanently?
There are various routes one could follow, but I would say that the most common and proper routes to at this stage would be Category F and the Regulation 6.2, both of which would be appropriate for nationals purchasing property in Cyprus.
Can you elaborate a little on these two categories? I mean, who can apply under Category F?
Under Category F, any UK national who has at their disposal a secure annual income which is sufficient to provide them with comfortable living in Cyprus, okay, and have either purchased or even rented out property, could apply.
How long does it take, though, for the approval of such an application?
Well, it's supposed to take around 12 months, but in reality it would take around 18 months.
I see. So, there is no minimum amount that purchasers need to spend on a property in order to apply for permanent residency under Category F. Is that correct, Mrs. Palas?
Yes, that is correct. And for this reason, it's a lot easier for our clients to apply under Category F, as they don't have a specific budget in mind when they purchase property.
And is it correct to state that purchasers who buy resale properties could apply under Category F? They do not need to buy new builds?
Yes, that is correct. So under Category F, there is no minimum purchase price that needs to be paid. And secondly, there is no requirement that the property is new. So it could be a resale and purchased from another seller that is not a developer.
What are the requirements of applying under the expedited procedure of Regulation 6.2?
Okay, Regulation 6.2, which is commonly called as the fast-track permanent residency route, has very recently been amended by the Cyprus government. What the Cyprus government has done is to include additional options which would enable a person to apply and obtain permanent residency under this fast-track regulation. First of all, it is a requirement that a minimum of 300,000 euros is spent, and this could be to purchase a property, so a residential property, so a house or an apartment of a value of a minimum 300,000 euros plus VAT. Then it could be an investment of 300,000 into real estate, which could be commercial, shops, restaurants, hotels, any real estate other than residential, which could be resale, so it wouldn't have to be a new build. It is also possible for an investor who wishes to apply under this category to to invest in the share capital of a company and purchase shares in a Cyprus company for a value of 300,000 euros, provided the company is registered in Cyprus, it's actually operational here, it has employees, over 5 employees, and it is fully functional and operational in Cyprus. And last but not least, it is possible to invest an amount of 300,000 euros in collective investment funds, in Cypriot collective investment funds. So this is the fourth option that has just very recently been added.
Very interesting.
Now, it is very important to note that in addition to making an investment of 300,000 euros, an applicant needs to show that they have a secured annual income emanating from abroad of a minimum amount of 30,000 euros per annum. This is for one person. Should the applicant wish to apply for its dependents, its children, its spouse, then they would need to show an additional annual income of 5,000 for each dependent. And if they wish to apply for their parents or their parents-in-law, they would need to show an additional annual income of 8,000 euros per person in order to apply.
And how long does it take for the approval of such an application?
It takes 2 months, hence called the fast-track process.
So, if I understand correctly, a UK national who wishes to purchase a resale property would apply under category F, whereas someone who wishes to buy an off-plan property or a new build from a developer for a minimum amount of 300,000 euro or more plus VAT would apply under category 6.2. Is that correct, Mrs. Palas?
Yes, that is correct.
Esme, if a UK national obtains a permanent residence permit under category F or 6.2, will this entitle them to work in Cyprus?
Well, actually it will not, because one of the requirements of both categories is that the applicant signs a document, an affidavit saying that they do not wish and will not engage in any form of profession in Cyprus. However, that will not stop applicants from setting up a Cyprus company in which they could be shareholders.
Perfect. Now, would they be able to bring their family members under category F?
Under category F, the applicant, his spouse, and any children under the age of 18 could apply.
Great. But what about category 6.2? Would they be able to bring their family members under this category?
Yes, actually it gives wide scope to bring not only the spouse, it allows children up to the age of 25.
Oh.
Yes, provided there is proof that they are in full-time education and supported by their parents. And it also allows the applicant to bring into his application his parents or even his in-laws.
Great. Now, are UK nationals that visit Cyprus after the 31st of January 2021 entitled to work in Cyprus?
I'm afraid that they are not per se. No.
So
they would have to apply for a work permit.
Okay, so if they wish to work, what are the options available to them?
Well, they could work for a Cyprus company, in which case the Cypriot company would obtain a work permit for them after liaising and getting the appropriate approval by the Labour Office. Now, there are other alternatives. A UK national could work for an existing or new company of foreign interests, and they could also, someone who actually wishes to set up a business in Cyprus, they are able themselves to establish a company of foreign interest and get work and residency permits for themselves as well as for their non-EU staff.
I see. But is setting up a company of foreign interests a complicated process? I mean, what are the minimum requirements for that?
Well, first of all, a company of foreign interest is a company in which the majority, so over 51% of the shareholders, are non-EU nationals. Okay. Now, these companies can be established now, taking advantage of the fast-track business activation mechanism that the government has now implemented as an incentive to attract foreign businesses who wish to either relocate or set up here in Cyprus or move their headquarters. And the government has made it a lot, through this mechanism, a lot faster and efficient to establish companies of foreign interest and register them with the various authorities.
Excellent.
Now, these companies of foreign interest need to have actual physical presence in Cyprus with premises and staff. They also need to provide the authorities with a reliable 5-year projection plan of their goals, okay, to like a business plan, okay, to show that the potential of growth. They need to also inject into the company, okay, there needs to be a foreign direct investment of 200,000 euros at least, which will be injected in the company's capital, but can actually be used. So it won't be stagnant. It will be used for the company's working activities.
Great.
Okay. And now the benefit is that those in key positions in this company of foreign interest can get work permit and residency permits for themselves and their family members, and they can also employ non-EU staff.
That is great. That is great to know. Very useful. Going back to properties, if UK nationals purchase properties in Cyprus, can they rent them out?
Residents can rent out their properties. When it comes to short-term rentals, it is important to note that last year a new law was established which actually regulates the renting out of self-catering accommodation. So it's important that the provisions of this law are adhered to. And also it is important to note that any income generated from these rentals needs to be declared to the inland revenue.
Of course. Now, a very important question. We have the pandemic, new reality. Everybody's talking about health. So, are UK nationals allowed to register with the general healthcare system of Cyprus known as YESI?
Yes, if they become permanent residents of Cyprus, they will be able to register with the new healthcare system and take advantage of all its benefits.
Very well. Will UK nationals be able to open bank account post-Brexit?
Yes, they will, just as non-EU nationals used to previously and still do. They will, however, need to provide all the necessary documentation to the bank, as well as information on their financial.
And one last question. If a potential client required legal advice on the issues discussed today, what would they need to do, Mrs. Palas?
They would need to get in touch, and my email address is in the back of the screen. We would be very happy to provide a consultation, a complimentary consultation on any of the issues that they require advice on. And of course, if they require actual assistance, we would provide them with a quote so that they know in advance what the legal fees would be, and there are no surprises. And of course, we would guide them through the process and explain everything that they need to know throughout.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much.
It is a pleasure. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And as I said, please do not hesitate to contact me should you have any questions. I have very briefly touched upon the various issues that have been concerning clients post-Brexit. So I'm sure there is much more that you may need to ask, so feel free to contact me. Thank you once again.